Mark Cuban, who even while being an owner, always had a lot to say. As you know, he was formerly, well, I don't know what his role is.
Yeah, I don't know either, Kel.
he's like part advisor, minority owner, but I talk smack about him, but I still love him. So, but Mark Cuban never wanted to bite his tongue. He always talks his mind. That's what makes him a great owner. That's what made him great for sports as a whole.
Yep.
He's had some things to say about tanking, Rob G, and where we are. Of course, Adam Silver has been jumping in, finding the Jazz and finding teams for tanking.
Yeah, tanking was like the big story leading into the All-Star break, right? Because you mentioned it, the Jazz got fined because they were so brilliant. They play their best players for 25 minutes and then bench them the fourth quarter and say, they ain't playing the rest of the way. We're going to find a way to lose this game.
At any point did you were going to put him in? No.
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 I love it. And then they accidentally won a game, and the game they won, they find the Heat instead. Like, nah, both of y'all are getting fined for this one, but it was great.
Yep.
So there was a lot made about it. The Athletic actually reported that everything is on the table, including, removing the draft lottery altogether. Now, I don't think that's actually going to happen, but that's been a big conversation. So Mark Cuban weighed in on it today on his X platform and had a series of tweets, like a whole thread of them. And basically what he said was NBA teams and their fans need to just embrace tanking, that ultimately it is a necessary evil if you want to get to where you want to go. And in fact, he added this part. You know who cares the least about tanking? A parent who can't afford to bring their 3 kids to a game and buy their kids a jersey of their favorite player. The NBA should worry more about pricing fans out of games than tanking.
And you know what? I'll tell you what. I think sometimes they actually go hand in hand, and this is what I mean. That parent who can't afford it, Kerry and Rob, but then goes out of their way to afford it, because I got to take my kid. They haven't gone. I've been promising them for years.
Yeah.
And I finally do. So it's a worse combination. I spent all of this money that I really don't have, but I felt like I owed this or my children deserved it, to then go to a game where they're tanking and they're not playing players and guys are out. That's just, to me, the worst, a horrible combination, Kerry, where you get the worst of both things. I barely can afford it. If not, I shouldn't be affording it. And then also, I'm not seeing players that are either tanking or they have, of course, slow management. But I want to go deeper than this, than just the NBA.
Okay.
We're getting to a point to first start with sports in general, Kerry. I like in the NFL too and NBA, but specifically NFL because it's a behemoth and there's only 17 games, 8 or 9, depending on the season at home.
Right.
We've gotten to the place now, Kerry, where what used to be family trips, hey, we're going to go to Disneyland. We're going to go see the Grand Canyon. We're going to go see Grandma Nancy down in wherever, is now going to an NFL game. Mm-hmm. If you do an NFL game, let's say call it air quotes here, right, meaning you don't get horrible seats, but you get decent, not great, but decent seats. I'm going to say that's about what, $250 a person, give or take, plus or minus a few. Mm-hmm. And if you're a family of 4, God forbid 5, like me, my wife, and our 3 kids, let's say $1,000, $250 a ticket. Mm-hmm. Now, parking's $100. Kids are going to want food. Maybe each one gets a thing, right? A jersey or a hat or a shirt or a hoodie or something. We're going to get a few drinks, couple beers, couple cocktails, whatever. By the time it's all said and done, you're dang near, seriously, you almost spent $2,000. Again, maybe it's $1,500, $1,600, but you get my point.
Yeah.
For a game. I didn't say you had field passes. I didn't say you had the elite where you get to go in the back and eat in the, like for instance, Dodgers have the Dodger dugout where you can eat great food and, it's real buffets with lamb chops and all that. Mm-hmm. I'm saying your basic, solid, good, solid, decent seats.
Right.
He has a point to where sports has gotten to where it is becoming elitism. If you don't have big time money, if you're not some big fancy corporate situation, or if you're not, somebody who's doing well off, it becomes harder and harder to go to a game. And yes, we know that's always going to be the case. People with money, we live in LA. If anybody knows it, we know it. But that shouldn't be the case. And here's the other crazy part, Kerry. It has now trickled down to the actual playing sports. Mm-hmm. Gone are the days of just rolling out a basketball and going to hoop on a court, or just playing sandlot football. If you aren't in organized clubs, travel teams, everybody plays basketball indoors, organized, has to be this, has to be ran by this team, this, that. You got to have money for so much now. And I do think sports is, because it's become a behemoth, all sports and big time money, and people's lives are changing, and you can be a middling player and get crazy money now, and agents get money and NIL deals. It does seem like we're starting to price out families going to games and Dagner even participating and playing in games. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, it used to be tennis and golf, right? Those were the sports where you had to have
swimming, stuff like that.
You had to have resources. I think you're right about that. The thing about Mark Cuban, though, he's been such a great ambassador for players in this league. And you hear it through all the players that play for him. So, you know, he was one of the first ones that made the locker rooms where players were like, man, this dude got PlayStations in the locker. Like, he always accommodated the player and took care of the player to get there. And with that same breath, he really cared about the team and the franchise. I think the only reason that we're even talking about this conversation about the tanking with him in particular, we don't talk about this when it's a weak draft. We're talking about this now when the draft is one of the strongest drafts ever. And so for him to come out and say, you know, make this statement, obviously my team, the Mavericks, his team that he's affiliated with, is probably going to be in the running for one of those guys that are coming out. So
he mentioned, by the way, Kerry, he mentioned that they did tank a few times under his watch. He said we tried it a few times.
He did. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what's happening in college, right? When you have these players now that are actually going to these schools and they're actually spreading out a little bit because now NIL is involved in it. So you're not seeing all these guys on one team that are like, you don't see that anymore. We saw with Duke the year when they had R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish, all these guys on one team. You won't see that now because of NIL, right? So now it's spread out. You're getting to see these guys play at their max potentials at these different spots. And so now you have these NBA teams, these franchises that aren't going to win this year. And, yeah, they want to tank. They want to get one of these guys. So I can't fault them for it. And I won't fault Mark Cuban for saying it. But there is something that needs to be fixed with the dynamic of what that represents. Because I don't think what you said, a family going to see a team or trying to go see LeBron or trying to go see Wemby or whoever it is, and these two teams aren't tanking, but say, for instance, they were. And they go and they plan all this, they plan these trips, they spend all this money, and they're going to see the San Antonio Spurs with their B team plan. There has to be some type of solution to kind of fix that or remedy that, you know?
Yeah, I do think he undersold the tanking because he's looking at it as he's looking at it as the end result of like, hey, well, it could work, you can get players, and then obviously now a franchise is good, and that's good because now a franchise is good, makes the league better. Yeah, but again, the same families that he's talking about, that's why I mentioned to me they go hand in hand in that. Yep. Okay, I'm barely affording this opportunity, but I feel like I owe it to my kids. We go, and you're tanking. So I'm being bad product. I'm not seeing certain players, or I'm not seeing them at key moments when they should be, like the fourth quarter. Or also, again, I'm seeing load management, and guys aren't playing through things. And they might be a little nicked up, but they're not going to push through. So to me, all of these things kind of coincide. But that's why I said in the overarching theme, I do think we're starting to get to a place where, man, sports are expensive to go to play, to participate. You can't just go hoop anymore. You got to do it the right way. And this team, this travel team, man, remember back in the day, if you played football, you were on your team and that was it. You would know better than me. Maybe you trained a little bit with the coaches, but that was like, nah, you got to have, you don't got these trainers and you don't have the whole Instagram kit of these are the videos you got to watch and this is the trainer you got to do and this is the thing. You need to be on this travel.
100%, yeah.
It's just gotten crazy where sports are to me. So,
Kel, you know who did a good job of this, though? You talk about not pricing out the fans.
Who's that?
It's the Phoenix Suns. Have you looked up their deal with Matt Ispa and those guys running the team in Phoenix? Like their concession stuff is the cheapest in the league. I mean, they have like I think they have like $5 hot dog type or it's really low. And I've seen there is a way to do that. And Phoenix, the product, right? Nobody thought they were going to be good this year, and they
have been
playing their butts off. So there is a way to do it, man. And just tanking for me, because you would think coming into this year, Phoenix would be one of those teams that were probably in that world, was going to live in that world. But they're not. They're competing and they're winning games.
You know why they're not? Because this is what we talked about earlier. And by the way, the Atlanta Falcons are another team franchise that say, hey, we're not going to take all your money at the concessions. We know it's expensive to get in here. The least we can do is save you a couple bucks on some popcorn. Yep. You know what I mean? So I always appreciate that. I always tell Rob the example of there was once a Minnesota governor who was running. His point was, if I'm at the airport here in Minneapolis and Burger King meal is $8 on the street, why is it $18 here? And he said that's the type of thing it shouldn't be. So I appreciate anybody who's in power to say, all right, we're we understand it's hard enough. We're not going to overtax you. You know, we're going to make money. We're in it for profit. We know that, but we're not going to overtax you. So I always appreciated that. But the point on the Suns, put a button on it, I think they got their guy, Devin Booker, and then they realized, let's build around him, get hard-nosed players who play, who can compete together, versus KD and get Bradley Beal, and it doesn't work that way. And that's what we're seeing. I mentioned that last time. We're seeing more and more when you build something like perfect pieces and you put them together, it fits better. And you get guys to buy into an ethos in a way that they're going to compete. I think it works better.
Yep.
All right, Rob, so they're watching us right now, which means another thing they can do is what?
They can subscribe. All you got to do is hit that button, subscribe to The Odd Couple for some of the best sports talk content in the nation.
Facts, and while you're at it, they can like, they can comment, they can share. Do all that for us. We appreciate it. Just do all that right up in here.